What's up, guys? Today we got another real estate guru reaction video today. Actually, this is from a guy who I think is really knowledgeable in real estate. His name is Wayne, older white guy.
Here we go.
He's been a realtor for years, and I love listening to his stuff because he gives me like a real estate agent's perspective. But recently he did a video, I think it's called, what banks don't want you to know, but it's talking about a real estate investing strategy. And when I found that out in the middle of the video, it instantly raised up like a light bulb. Like, what? Because he's not a real estate investor. He never mentions, buying properties, at a discount, raising private money, getting hard money loans, managing contractors, fixing it. He never mentions that kind of stuff. He always talks about, how to qualify for FHA loans, to look good on paper, to qualify for loans, how to work with real estate agents. He's always talking about that kind of stuff. If you want to build a new house, what should you look for in land, that kind of thing. So when I heard this video and he's talking about real estate investing strategies, I instantly started looking at it, and honestly, I ain't even listened to the whole thing, so I stopped it and I said I gotta make a reaction video on it because I want to give you my perspective on this particular topic that he's going through. Keep in mind, I've done over 100 seller financing deals, so I'm gonna bring you a perspective from a real estate investor's perspective on this video. So let's get right into this, okay?
It happens. We've all been there for whatever reason. Banged up, bruised credit, divorce, job loss, medical bills, you name it, it happens. But what if there was a way that I could show you how you could buy a house, your credit not be an issue, your new job not be an issue, self-employed not be an issue because you write a lot of stuff off. I too am self-employed. That's exactly what I'm going to show you in this video. Your credit's not going to matter, your job history is not going to matter, and the amount of money that you write off is not going to matter. None of that stuff is going to matter. I'm going to show you exactly how you can purchase a house regardless of your circumstance. Now, if you haven't already done so, subscribe to the channel. My name's Wayne Turner. For nearly 30 years, I've helped thousands of people purchase houses. And I discovered this way that you could purchase a house 15 years ago. I'd always heard about it, but I'd never seen people really do it.
Okay. He discovered it 15 years ago. He had always heard about it. He had never done it. That was my first okay, hold on. Is he about to talk about something that he knows what he's talking about? Or what? So let's just continue.
Or help people do it. And I too have purchased a house this way. What I'm talking about is owner.
That's good. He did just say that he's purchased a house that way. That's good.
Financing. You see, there's people out there that own homes, they own land, they own property, and they're excited to be able to sell the property to you on owner's terms. There's no bank involved, there's no credit union involved, there's no mortgage company involved. It's just a transaction where you purchase the house directly from the homeowner, and it's all legal, it's all recorded. You simply give them a down payment. They amortize that over 30 years just like a traditional mortgage. You typically put an interest rate on that anywhere from 1.5% to 1.25%.
Okay, you see that right there. See, that's what I don't like. Okay, that's what I don't like. That is wrong, and it's giving out bad information. He said all you got to do is put down a down payment. That is absolutely wrong. See, I've bought plenty of houses, seller financing, where the seller is holding the note, just like what he's talking about. The seller has owns the property free and clear. They want to sell. I give them the price they want if they give me terms, meaning I pay them over time. He said that it requires a down payment. That's a lie. It doesn't. It's all about what you can negotiate. And it's such a small thing, but I don't like it. I don't like it because if I tell you what is a lie to benefit me, that would make me selfish. Okay. But if I were to tell you the truth that, hey, a lot of the times you can negotiate very low down payments, sometimes not have, not pay anything. In this case, I'm going to be your agent, so you will have to pay me an agent fee. That's what he's trying to say. Okay. And then he said amortized over 30 years. Okay. On traditional mortgages, most of them are amortized over 30 years. I agree with that. But with seller financing, with owner terms, it's whatever you can agree to. The house that I live in right now, I bought it for $1.2 million. Okay. Now I did get it amortized over a 30-year note at 4.25%, but my monthly payments are not based off of that. They are based off of an agreement. So I pay $32.64 every month for my property. If you do the math on 1.2 with 100 grand down, you would see that my payments are supposed to be more than $32.64, but it's about what you agreed to. I have a little rental property where we agreed to a 15-year term. Okay. And of course, you save money on a 15-year term than you do a 30-year term. He also mentioned an interest rate. Okay. I have several seller financing opportunities right now that I still hold. Okay. I have wholesaled ones. I have kept some and then I sold them, but I currently hold some notes from sellers, right? I reached out to the seller directly, got them to agree to terms, and they are 0% interest. Once again, it's not a big deal, but it is, because if it leads you to believe something that's not all the way accurate or true, is not a benefit to you.
Over what the current rate is. So if the rate's 6%, you may have to pay 7.5%. But listen, you have to understand this. It's not so much the cost of the money.
Now, what he's about to go into, I kind of like, but come on, I'm telling you, open your eyes. I'm telling you, I'm not the only one that's saying this.
It's the availability of the money, because you can always refinance this property in the years to come. Now, when I say refinance the property and I say availability of the money, you have to know this. You're not borrowing the money per se. You're buying a property from someone that 99% of the time they own that property free and clear. And so since they own that property free and clear, they can owner finance it. They can say, okay, I'll sell you this house for $200,000. I'm not loaning you $200,000. I'm letting you purchase my house for $200,000. And you're going to pay me over time, just like a traditional mortgage. As I mentioned, it's amortized over 30 years to keep your payment down. And the rates, they're negotiable. And that's what we do as real estate agents, of course. We help you find these properties. I've got a team of agents all around the country. You can go to wayneturner.com, click buying. It shows you exactly. Just tell us what you're...
There we go. So, okay, see, high level, this is what the game plan is. Tell you what the strategy is, and his team helps find you a deal like that, and they make a spread. Okay, just so you can understand how a spread is made on a creative financing deal like this. Number one, you make money on the down payment. So let's say they negotiate zero money down with the seller, but they get you to agree to $20,000 down. Okay. In my company, if I do that, then I'm taking home the 20 grand, because that's just, I got them to agree to terms. Now I'm about to sell it to someone else on terms. So I'ma just make the spread. That's just how I do it as a real estate investor. I don't know if he's doing the same thing as an agent, but I would assume if he's so smart telling us this investor strategy, he's going to be thinking like I'm thinking right now and making money off the spread. Okay, because agents can get properties under contract themselves. That's what Mark Spain does. I don't know if you guys see Mark Spain out here guaranteeing you an offer. He goes to list your property. His investment company or investment partners come in and make a cash offer on the property after he got the listing agreement. That's just his investing company and investing partners. So they have an investment strategy that goes along with their realtor acquisitions, of listings. That make any sense? All right, let's keep moving.
You're looking to do, and we'll find the properties for you. It's quite that simple. But here's how it works. You have to have 10% down. You have to have cash.
See?
If you have cash, and a lot of people come to me and say, Wayne, my credit's bruised, I got a new job, I'm self-employed, but I got cash, I can come up with cash. Well, if you got cash, you can buy these houses. 10%, $200,000 house can cost you 20 grand. You can come up with 20 grand, you can buy a house. Listen, there's no background check, there's no job history check, there's no credit check on 90% of these homes, if not more. You just have to write a check for 10% of the down payment and you own a home. Now what's really cool about this is a lot of these properties are empty, they're vacant. The reason why they're vacant is because Perhaps it was a person that bought that home and they don't want to be a landlord anymore. They bought that, I just want a rental property. And then they say, I don't want any more rental properties. Perhaps you're one of those people. Give us a thumbs up if that's the case, or tell us your story. I bought a rental house and didn't like it. If you own rental properties, there's real estate investors that own lots of rental properties, and they're up in retirement years and they don't want to deal with this anymore. So they'll take a property, instead of continue to rent it, they will sell it on owner's terms, and this helps them in as far as.
Well, actually, so I do like what he just said there, because that's actually one of the things I teach my guys in the office is when you're trying to find people to pitch this to, one person that I like to pitch, this to is the landlords, people who are already have rental properties. See, because the only downside to having rental property is that you're still liable for the property, insurance, taxes. You got to manage the tenant. You got to maintenance the house. There's still work involved, so it's not really passive, and it could cause you to go negative cash flow. But if you change that whole scenario up to becoming the bank, him selling the property on payments, now he's guaranteed to get X amount of dollars every month plus interest. Okay. He doesn't have to worry about managing the tenants, toilets, taxes, insurance, and he's also never going to go below zero every month when it comes to his cash flow, because he's the bank. You can't call the bank and say, hey, the HVAC is out, you got to fix it. It helps them have consistent cash flow.
Their taxes and how much they pay on their taxes, because they're not selling the property outright. But you can see how a lot of these properties are vacant. Now, what that means to you, which is really exciting, is that you can close on one of these houses literally in about 2 weeks. So you can go to wayneturner.com.
Okay, now he did just bring up a really good point that a lot of people will sell on seller financing. You don't say seller financing to the seller. I'm just saying it to you for training purposes right now. A lot of people will sell on seller financing because it does help out with their taxable burden. Okay, now let's say you sell a property for 200 grand. You collect 200 grand. Well, that's good because you got 200 grand, but it's also bad because now you have to report 200 grand on your income for the year. So that bumps you up, as far as your income, which means you pay more taxes, so that's not necessarily all the way good. You're not really getting 200 grand. Okay. But in a seller financing scenario, if you sell that same property for 200 grand and you receive zero money down, you receive the first payment, which is $1,000, and you get $1,000 a month, so you get $12,000 for the year. That's not really gonna harm you. I can't remember. I think the income that you need to receive every year has to be less than $10,000 in order for you not to report. And so that's one thing that I will squeeze in there to try to get my monthly payment even lower. If they see, lowering their taxes as a benefit. So I say, hey, Mr. Seller, you seem to like that strategy of having to, lower your taxable burden. Did you know that there's a certain amount every year that if we're under that amount, you don't have to use this as income at all on your taxes, right? Because, what's that amount? Oh, let's look it up real quick. Boom, divided by 12. Hey, if this monthly payment is that, you don't have to worry about, reporting this to your taxes. Let's do that. So that is a good point that he just brought up. He just kind of went over it real fast because that is where his value and his team is coming in, to help you guys find a deal. It's not going to share everything with you because that would take a lot of his value away. I get it.
Click buying. Tell me what you're looking for. Let me know. Yes, Wayne, I got 10%. Let's go. Help me find one. We can certainly do that. And you can be literally moving into your new home in 2 weeks from watching this video. Now, there are some things you need to know and some mistakes you need to avoid making. One is you got to know, of course, you got to have 10% down, right? But you also have to know that there's an additional cost to pay the attorney. So I'll tell people you got 10% to put down. That's your down payment. And that down payment goes towards the balance of what the seller's selling you the property for. You buy a $200,000 home, to make this real easy, and you put down 10%, you're putting down 20 grand. Your balance is now 180. Your payment is based on the 180. Now, what's really cool about that is you don't have to pay PMI. You don't have to pay private mortgage insurance. That's an insurance that mortgage companies take out when you don't put 20% down on a property. And that covers their base in case you default on the loan, they have to foreclose on the property. that can run into the hundreds of dollars a month. So that alone saves you money in your monthly payment. Now, it's also important to know that you can have these homes inspected. There are thousands of homes like this all around the country.
Absolutely. Let me stop right there. So he's absolutely right about this. So whenever you're buying a property and getting a traditional loan, FHA, VA, whatever, and you put less than 20% down, there is a private mortgage insurance monthly payment attached to every single payment, and most of the time is $100 to $200 every month until your property is paid for. So you are saving that money every single month, which is one reason why I like this strategy, especially for real estate investors who are trying to, create the most cash flow possible. Okay. Now, when you close a transaction like this, you want to make sure your insurance does get the seller lender's insurance, because now that he's going to be a mortgage, he's technically a lender. So you want to get him lender's insurance, which is the same as private mortgage insurance, but it won't be a monthly fee. It'll just be a one-time upfront at closing. It's typically like $800 to $1,000, but it's worth it. It's one of those extra things that I throw in there, as like a trust factor, as a benefit to the seller when working with me, is they get this additional private mortgage insurance, just in case anything were to happen.
Country available for sale. And a lot of people feel like, well, since the seller's doing me a favor and selling me the property and they're not checking my credit, my job history, or any of that, then I don't have to do an inspection, or maybe I shouldn't do an inspection. And listen, you want to do an inspection on the property, and after you do the inspection, you can tell the seller, hey, I still want to buy the house, but there's a broken window or a leaky faucet or the leaky roof. And bottom line, they'll say yes or no. More than likely, they're going to say yes, because you got to understand, they're selling you the property. And if you don't pay the monthly mortgage payment, they can take the property back just like a mortgage company can. They can foreclose on the property, of course. But it's important to know that now instead of later. You can also purchase a home warranty on the property. So that way you purchase the property, home warranty will cover major appliances, water heater, central heating and air, things like that. Always get it inspected, and always put a warranty on the property. I put them on all of my properties. Some people don't like home.
So I will say I like that point. I typically never do a home inspection. Sometimes I should, but I do think that most people generally should get a home inspection, because it's another negotiation point. Typically, once you get a home inspection, the seller is always like, on edge to see if you're going to use whatever they find to negotiate a better price. And in my opinion, in negotiations, you always give the person what they expect. So I will say definitely do that. Now, the home warranty, I've never gotten a home warranty, just to be honest. I don't know. Sometimes I do offer it to people who want to buy my property and they feel some kind of way about something. So I will offer, hey, I'll pay $1,000 towards a home warranty for you. But me personally, I've never gotten one, so I don't know if they are beneficial or not, just to be quite honest.
Home warranties, they're $800, and at the end of the day, it gives you peace of mind, because if something breaks, you don't have to pay $700-800 to fix it. You pay a $100 service fee. Now, I mentioned paying the attorney fee to close the transaction. Typically, that's anywhere from $400 to $500 to close the transaction. But here's the mistake that a lot of people make. They purchase a property like that, owner financing. The seller finances the property, if you will, but they don't get a title policy on the property. And a title policy is going to cover the house in case there's any back taxes, liens, encumbrances, mechanical liens, anybody's done any work on the property. Unlike automobile insurance covers you from the day you purchase automobile insurance, for example, until you cancel the policy into the future. Well, title policy does the reverse. It covers everything backwards. So if anything has been done on that property, any liens, what the attorney does is they do research and make sure there's a clear title on the property, there's a clear deed. That way, when the title and deed and everything goes into your name, no one's going to come knocking on your door and say, hey, I replaced the central heat and air, that's why it's new. No one paid me my $7,000. They can't do that. Of course, they can knock on your door, but you can say, hey, I got a title policy. Sorry, you'll have to take it up with the guy that I bought the property from. Now, I mentioned refining the property. I mentioned interest rate. I mentioned, it's not so much the cost of the money, it's the availability of the money. And a lot of people say, ooh, 7.5% rate. That's high, Wayne. I'm like, listen, you're putting 10% down, right? But you also have to remember that you don't have to pay private mortgage insurance, which is going to save you several $100 a month. So even though you may be paying 7.5% rate, you put 10% down on the property, you got equity in it. It's not 6%, right? It's 7.5%, but you're not paying.
Okay, so now I will say, I'm not necessarily. He's kind of going in the right direction that I will go. I'm not necessarily worried about the interest rate. I do what's agreeable for the seller on these particular deals, and as long as I have enough spread to where, just in case, if I need to rent it out, I can, and I still make money. I still make at least $350 net. So I'm not necessarily worried about how much interest rate, how much interest I'm actually paying. So, yeah, he's kind of right about that.
PMI. So that difference is the difference in if you bought a house traditionally and put 10% down and had to pay private mortgage insurance. So you have to look at every little detail, and that's what my team and I do. Regardless of the state, regardless of the city, if you're watching this video, we can help you find and buy one of these homes, and literally you can be in your new home in the next 30 days. Now, a lot of people say, Wayne, I'm self-employed, I write a lot of stuff off every year, or I just filed bankruptcy 2 years ago. Well, here's what's really important to know. If you filed bankruptcy 2 years ago, 2 years from your discharge date, you can get an FHA loan. 3 years from your discharge date, you can get a conventional loan. So you see, as long as you're diligent and working on your credit to improve your credit, even if you file bankruptcy today, you're watching this video, and it was discharged today, well, 3 years from now, you can get a conventional loan. So here's the way it works. You purchase one of these houses, you put 10% down. You have to know that now you have equity in a property. You have $20,000 of your money that you put down.
Okay, now he said equity a couple times, and I ignored it the first time, but I'm not going to ignore it now. So equity is the difference between what you owe and what you can sell the property for as is right now. Okay. And most of the time, if you're going through a realtor gets paid based off of how much they sell the property for. And if they're going out and finding these deals for you versus you finding them yourself, you're probably, and especially if an appraisal is not done, because notice we're not talking about an appraisal here in this kind of transaction so far, you're going to be paying top dollar. Okay. In most of these transactions, when realtors are involved, and they're this savvy, you're going to be paying top dollar. You're not going to have any equity. And remember, equity is, positive equity is the difference between what you owe right now and what you can sell the house for as is. Now, remember, a lot of these sellers who are open to seller financing, now they might be able to sell the property for what you're buying it for. No, don't get me wrong. In some cases, yes, you're right. But in a lot of cases, it's been sitting on the market for 90 days, 120 days, 6 months, a year, and nobody's been willing to pay that price that they want yet for it in cash or with the bank. So you need to be able to have the payments low enough and have the term long enough on these seller financing deals, so that way you can actually come into positive equity. Does that make sense? So don't let this man just be throwing out equity and you it sounds good to the ear. It doesn't necessarily work like that. Okay, it doesn't necessarily work like that.
Also, living in the property, your driver's license is your home, right? So are your utility bills. Everything is right there. So when you go to refinance that property, they're going to appraise it. It's going to go up in value over 3 years. Just about guarantee you that, unless you're in certain specific populated states, you know what I mean? But at that point, you can refinance the property, and you have equity in the property. And those.
Just so you know, I never tell people to refinance a seller financing opportunity. Crazy. And let me tell you why. So I had this lady who sold me a property, seller financing and subject to, all in one deal. I took over her mortgage. She wanted 40 grand outside of it. I broke that 40 grand down in payments. 3 years later, after having making $200 a month payments to her, she went into like this hardship point. Okay. As in like things were just bad for her. She needed a lump sum up front. And she called me and told me this. I said, hey, look, I don't mind giving you the lump sum. Like I said, I've been paying her $200 for 3 years at this point, every month. Let's do the math real quick. $200 times 36 months. So I had paid her $7,200 and I still owed her $32,000. What I told her was, hey, I'd be willing to give you a lump sum, $5,000, but you wouldn't be getting any payments anymore. So essentially, I got her to settle Okay, I got her to settle $32,000 and $32,800 worth of money that I owed her, that we agreed on, that I was going to pay her for $5,000 because she came up on a hardship, and she agreed. We took that to the attorney. I gave her $5,000 and she signed a satisfaction that the $40,000 that we had originally agreed to was paid for. So I'm never gonna tell you to refinance an opportunity you made with another person. Anything could happen. That person could, just like Miss Lauren did, be cool with a settlement. That person could pass away, and then the family want a settlement, or the family be okay with accepting payments, or rates could go down again, and then you renegotiate a rate. So many different things could happen. Why it's way more beneficial to have a seller financing note with a private individual versus having institutional loan with a big pharma bank. I mean, that's crazy. Don't do that, please.
Those refinances, any mortgage lender will tell you those are easy as long as you get that credit score over 620, because that's the baseline for a loan. Now you're buying a property that you put 20% down. You're refining a property that you have equity in, and you have a 620 credit score. It's absolutely one of the easiest ways to refinance the property. And the reason why I say that is because a lot of these homes, they'll put what they call a call on them. So in other words, they'll amortize it over 30 years. However, in 2 to 3 years, they're going to ask that you go ahead and refinance the property. So at that point, they do.
It's not a call. It's called a balloon. It's not a call, It's a balloon, okay? And by the way, don't agree to a balloon, okay? Do not agree to a balloon. Most sellers do not want a balloon. If you offer a balloon and they agree to it, then hey, whatever. And let me say this. If you do agree to a balloon, be sure you have enough time to build up equity to be able to make the deal work. So if you can't refinance it, you can sell. And on average, 7 to 10 years is enough time. 2 to 3 years, it may be enough time, but you want to negotiate the most amount of time possible. Do not, when you go in to make an offer to a seller, and buy a house on terms, do not offer a balloon. If they counter and want a balloon, great. Then make sure you put that balloon further out there. Decrease the price, because now you're gonna have more equity. Lower the down payment. Decrease the interest rate. Once somebody say to me, "Hey, Sawan, I'll do some terms for you, but I want a balloon, in 3 years." Ding on the purchase price, ding on the interest rate. Because then that's going to put me in a better financial situation, so I actually can be able to sell and make more money, or be able to refinance and have more equity.
Get all their money back. That's not always the case, but that's the case probably about 70% of the time. And listen, the reason why I tell you this is so you'll know all of this information up front, so you're not shocked by anything. So it will be amortized over 30 years, 360 payments, and they will say in 36 payments, you're going to know now that you're going to have to get a traditional mortgage from like a credit union or mortgage company. Those are the two I always recommend. It's just me personally. And that way you...
I just hate the balloon. Stop. I just hate that, because in the middle of the video, he talked about having bankruptcies. He talked about having being self-employed and writing everything down and not being able to get a loan because of that. He talked about having felonies. Why would you agree to a balloon and expect you couldn't get the loan now, so you expecting in 36 months you're gonna get the loan? That's not smart for you to agree on paper with this kind of legal transaction, especially for a house that you're gonna be living in. I'm just saying.
You can refinance the property, get it out of their name, they get all their money, and you're still living in the house. Now, it's also important to know that the time that you're living in that home, the 3 years or 2 years before that, should you decide to sell the property, you can actually put it on the market and sell it. That's what's really important to know. So if it's one of those situations where you buy the house, you've got equity in the home, you get job transfer, job relocation, or whatever the circumstance or situation may be, you can sell the property. The proceeds go to you. The only thing that you're
Okay, real quick, I want to show you this right here, just so I can make my point plain and clear about this, okay? The reason why people, once again, the reason why people sell on the MLS is because you're going to make the most amount of money there. Realtors get paid by commission by getting the buyer to pay the most amount of money for the property. So if that's the case, you're going to be paying the highest amount possible for that property, especially if you don't have to bring a loan and you don't need an appraisal on the front side. Then it's definitely going to be a retail or over retail price. Let me show you why this would be dumb to get a balloon on a property that you're paying retail or over retail for, and you have to have a balloon due in 24 months or 36 months. Let me show you. Assuming this is your loan of $330,000 at 30% at 5.25%, your monthly payments are $1,826. Okay. You buy this property at the top of the year in January of 2025. In the first year, okay, actually, let's break this down per payment. Okay. In the first payment, you pay $1,826. The first payment, $377 goes towards the principal. You see how your what you owed went down $377, but in interest, you paid almost $1,500 in interest. And every single month, your interest the amount that goes towards the interest payment goes a little down, and then the amount that goes towards the principal, what you owe, goes a little up. And that's how amortization works. Okay. Now, on the third year, notice that in principal, you've only paid down $14,233. So you still owe $315,000, right? When you originally financed $330,000. So you only have $15,000 of equity. You see what I'm saying? Let's say your house is worth $330,000 and the bank says that they're going to refinance 90% of your property, and it appraises at $330,000, what you originally financed for it. So let's call it, that's at 90%. So that means they're going to be willing to finance $297,000, 90% of 330. So you owe more in on the third year than what your balance is. You see what I'm saying? And see, even if we get them to go and do the balloon at the third year, you owe $304,000. So at this point, in the fifth year. So in the fifth year, you've paid $25,000 down on your balance, but you paid $82,000 in interest, which is why I said do not agree to a balloon until you get to 7 to 10 years. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. By year 10, you've paid $60,000 down in principal and $160,000 in interest, but we're below that 90%. See, I'm only giving you a real estate investor's perspective because I've done this so many times. So I know in my head whether it's going to make sense or not before I even look at it on paper and calculations on all those good things. But an agent will literally just be yamming. An agent will just be yamming, just be talking. He found this new strategy that's working better because the banks got high interest rates right now, which is causing, the appraisals to be jacked up, and the loan to values are jacked up with banks. So it's hard to sell property on the MLS right now. But he found this new seller financing strategy, and now he's going to pitch it on his website where he got millions of people watching, and it's going to bring in lots of leads. I get it. But be smart about this, people. Be smart. Okay. I don't take real estate investing advice from an agent. And that's all I'm trying to say by this video. Okay, this is a great strategy. Me personally, I love doing this strategy, but I will not take this advice from an agent. And I'm going to stop right here. Once again, I am not bashing my guy. I'm sure my guy is smart. I love watching his land videos and all that good stuff. I'm sure he's a great agent. He's got a great community, 400,000 people on YouTube. But when these agents start talking real estate investing strategies, don't believe it. Peace, y'all.